I'm going to place you under oath then, if you could raise your right hand. Do you affirm under penalty of perjury that the information you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sir, could I get you to give us your first and your last name and spell both of them for us?
Isiah Harper. First name Isiah, last name Harper.
Okay. Mr. Harper, we're going to start with attorneys for Mr. Haynes. I do want to ask that as you're asked questions, please don't talk over the person asking the questions.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard to make sure that we get an accurate record, so just take your time, pause before you respond, okay?
All right. Yeah, all right. I got you.
Okay. Who's doing the question?
Mr. Hampton will do this one.
Mr. Hampton, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Harper.
Good morning.
Thank you for being here today. I'm going to be asking you a few questions here to start the morning, okay?
All right.
How old are you as you sit here today?
I'm 34.
And what's your birthday?
7/26/89.
Are you originally from the Twin Cities?
Yeah, born and raised.
In the city of Minneapolis?
Yeah.
And Mr. Harper, where do you currently reside?
At Faribault Correctional Facility.
Okay. And when you say Faribault Correctional Facility, is that a penitentiary?
It's supposed to be, yeah.
And how long have you been incarcerated?
Since 2016.
Okay. And so you've been incarcerated since 2016. Is that in connection with a crime?
You said what?
Was that related to a crime?
Yes.
And what was that crime?
Aiding and abetting second-degree murder.
Okay. And do you know as of today when you're scheduled to be released?
Yeah, April 22nd, 2024.
So in a few months.
Yeah.
You're here today and you just raised your right hand and took an oath. Do your prior convictions or anything you've done in the past connected to the legal system, does that prevent you from telling the truth here today?
No, why should it? No.
And have you been incarcerated prior to your 2016 incarceration?
Yeah.
Okay. And does that prior incarceration or that crime, does that have any implication on whether or not you can tell the truth today? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. No?
I said no, yeah.
Okay.
And now sometimes it seems conversational, so I'll try to wait and then make sure I don't talk over you at the same time. So sorry about that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have you had prior interactions with law enforcement?
Yeah.
And in those prior interactions, did they connect you then to the criminal justice system?
Right, what you mean?
Did it lead to any incarceration for you after those interactions with law enforcement?
Yeah, a couple times, yeah.
Do either of those facts prevent you from telling the truth here today?
Not at all.
And do you know the petitioner in this matter? Do you know the petitioner in this matter?
Do you know Mr. Haynes?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And how do you know Mr. Haynes?
That's my cousin.
Okay. So that's your cousin. Did you two grow up together?
Yeah.
Were you two close when you were growing up?
Yeah.
So you had that relationship. Does that relationship affect your ability to tell the truth here today?
No, why should it? No. The truth is the truth.
Would you lie to help him in court here today?
No.
I'm gonna turn to the case that we're here for. Are you understanding that you're here connected to a killing that happened at a flower shop in Minneapolis?
Right, correct.
And you're aware that this shooting occurred on May 16th, 2004, correct?
Correct.
Have you previously been involved in this case?
What you mean previously? Like?
Have you previously been questioned or talked to law enforcement about this case?
No.
About the May 16th shooting, have you previously talked to law enforcement?
No, not no law enforcement, no. I ain't talked to no police about nothing.
Let me clarify the question, and I'll give some context. You understand that the shooting that occurred at the flower shop was on May 16th in 2004,
That's the exact date.
It was in May of 2004.
Right.
And in that time, in May, did you talk to law enforcement ever in the month of May of 2004?
It had to be May because they came right away, yeah.
Okay. So when I say connected to this case, I'm talking about that shooting.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
You talking about like recently.
Okay. So you did have contact with law enforcement?
Correct.
Was it just once, or did law enforcement talk to you on multiple occasions?
Multiple occasions.
Do you recall when you were first approached by law enforcement in May of 2004 about this matter?
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
I was on 26 and James, and they had just raided the block, and they had grabbed everybody, and everybody tried to grab me, but my mom was coming down the street too, so they didn't really get to me till I went home. And then they tried to ask should they get permission to talk to me, and she wouldn't do it at that time, at that moment. And that was the first time I had any interaction with the law enforcement about this situation.
And in May of 2004, how old were you?
14, 15, somewhere around there.
Your birthday, you said, was 7/26/89.
Right.
So I think my math says 14 as well. Did you have more than one conversation with police about this case?
Yes.
Were you ever taken from your home anywhere with law enforcement?
Yes.
Where did they take you?
Downtown to first to the city hall, then down there to the room they just had me in right now.
So in the city of Minneapolis, you were taken into custody.
Yes.
And this was all, eventually, in these multiple conversations, you gave a recorded statement to law enforcement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is it your recollection that recorded statement was on May 28th, 2004?
Not to my, I get if that's what it say, yeah.
But that conversation that you had with law enforcement on May 28th, 2004, was that the last interaction you had with law enforcement before any grand jury or trial in this matter?
Well, really, the recording that recording that they got on record, not even the first recording. That's what I'm trying to get what you trying to say. So it's like when you say that, it got me confused. That last time they recorded me, or the time when they stopped it and put in play what they wanted to put in play, then kept going. Which recording you talking? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Thank you for asking the clarifying question. I'll rephrase. Your final interaction was a recorded interaction with law enforcement. Is that correct?
Yes.
But that was not your first interaction.
Right.
You had several prior to that.
Right.
And those prior conversations were not recorded.
Right.
Okay. And so let's take a step back, and we can return to that recorded conversation later.
Right.
And let's talk about those prior interactions. You recall that you said you had conversations with them several times, correct?
Correct.
And you said that you were brought into custody at into this building or a police station?
To the city hall. Like, they take you through the jail. It's a little evidence room. Then they brought me over to here. They put me in that holding tank down to the same one I'm in right now. That's how that went.
And for those conversations, who was present?
2 detectives.
So it was yourself and 2 detectives.
Right.
Was there anyone else?
No.
Did you have a lawyer there?
No.
Was your mother present?
No.
And remind me how old you were at the time in May of 2004?
14.
Going back to that interaction when you were in custody, can you describe the physical room and where you were and what it was like?
It was a regular room at first. In the beginning, it was smooth. I just thought they just wanted to see what was going on. You know, I ain't know shit, so I wasn't worried about nothing.
And were you in a room with a closed door?
Yeah, it was a closed door with me behind the table and the 2 detectives.
Okay. And was this you said you're 14, was this a juvenile facility?
No. Was down here, downtown, the adult correctional facility.
You said adult correctional facility? Okay. And in that moment when you were 14, did you believe when you were sitting in that room with those detectives that you could just get up and walk away?
No. How can I? They sitting in front of the door at that end for something. I ain't never been able to walk away from no police. When was that ever? Just get up and walk away? I ain't never seen no shit like that.
I appreciate the words you just said around that, and I just want to clarify. You felt like you couldn't. Did they ever explicitly say you couldn't get up and
No, they didn't say it. When do they ever just say it? No, they put that demeanor on that. They set me behind the table, both of them in front of the door. How would that make me feel like I could get up and walk away?
Was this first interaction with law enforcement, did you initiate that interaction? Did you go to law enforcement to have a conversation?
No.
Did you ask to be a witness in this
No.
matter? And when they came to you, did you want to be a witness in this case?
No.
Why?
Because I ain't know it was no reason to be no witness. It wasn't no reason to be no witness. You feel me? That's why.
Did you have knowledge about the matter when they approached you in May of 2004?
No.
Did you tell the officers at the time that you didn't know anything about the shooting that occurred at the flower shop?
Right. Correct.
And then all of those several conversations you had with law enforcement before the May 28th statement, did you tell them that did you let them know that you knew anything about this matter?
No.
Why did you tell them that you didn't know anything?
You said, why didn't I?
Why did you tell them that you didn't know anything?
Because I didn't know nothing.
So after this, you did give a statement to police on May 28, 2004, detailing some facts.
All right.
Were the facts in that statement on May 28th, were those statements true?
No.
You mentioned you had multiple conversations with law enforcement. Do you recall if the ones prior to that May 28th statement were recorded?
At first, it was just regular conversation. They just was asking me, do I know Marvin Haynes, and who is he to me? And I told them the same thing I just told y'all today. Yeah, I know him. That's my cousin. And then that's when it went into the whole other play, the smooth and stop the record and say this and that ain't what you said the first time and all that. That's how that went.
So ultimately, when you talked to law enforcement on May 28, 2004, did you change your story and say that you did know something?
After the cell incident, the bullpen incident, all the bringing me in the elevator with grown-ups and all that, yeah. After the threatening me with the time, yeah, I said what they wanted me to say. Hell yeah.
And I'll get back to some of the things that you just mentioned, but do you remember what you said in that May 28th statement to them about this crime?
Not all the way down, but I know it was somewhere around the fact that it was supposed to be like Marvin called me and told me he shot a man on the corner.
So eventually you said you called and had a conversation with Marvin and he shot someone on a corner.
Correct.
Do you remember anything else about that statement?
Not really. It was so long ago, and I was just going with the shit. I didn't want to go to jail. I was shorty. They was trying to scare me. You feel me? And yeah, that's how that went.
Do you remember anything about phrases that you heard said prior to the alleged crime?
Maybe if I could just jump in. Do you remember your statement on May 28th, or is this kind of yours?
Not to the exact word, no.
Okay. You have the recording?
Excuse me, Your Honor?
Do you have the recording?
We have the police report, the printed version,
Okay.
Your Honor.
If you don't know, sir, I'm going to ask you to tell us you don't know. The attorneys can try to refresh your recollection with things. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, we don't want people guessing. I don't want to have two ships passing in the night where they're asking you about one thing and you're answering about something else.
I got you.
All right. Mr. Hampton, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you.
So you do recall the statement on May 28, 2004?
Right.
If you were to read a portion of that, would it refresh your recollection?
Yeah. Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to let you read it. You can just read it in your head. Take your time. I read slow, so you don't have to worry. You're not making me feel impatient. And when you do read it, I'm then going to take the document back and ask you a few questions, okay?
Thanks.
While you're reviewing that, I'm just going to talk with the attorneys briefly over here on this council.
Mr. Harper, you had a chance to review this document that is a Minneapolis Police Department case supplement from May 28, 2004. Is that correct?
Correct.
And did this refresh your recollection of that interaction?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were in custody with the law enforcement during this conversation, is that correct?
Correct.
And they were recording this conversation?
Right.
Can you tell me what you remember saying during that conversation?
That Marvin had called me. Well, from what I just read, now it sound he called me and told me to go look for Daquan. He just shot somebody.
Do you remember describing any weapon during that conversation?
No.
Do you remember using any phrases about a robbery?
Like a lick, hit a lick.
Okay. And what does hit a lick mean?
A robbery.
Okay. And when you were in custody, was this the first time you had said that you knew that a man had been shot by Mr. Haynes?
Yes.
Was this the first time that you had mentioned the phrase hit a lick to law enforcement?
Law enforcement, yes.
Do you recall saying where, how the individual was shot or where they were shot?
I just know I remember saying he said he shot somebody on the corner.
Okay. What about physically on their body?
Nah, not that. Like I said, it was all just some shit going. I just was saying shit. I was just saying what I was told to say. So if I said something, I wouldn't know where the fuck nobody was shot at. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Did you feel, were the words that you said on May 28th, were those your words?
No. They came out of my mouth, yes.
Okay. And why did those words come out of your mouth?
Because I was afraid. Because I was told to say some shit.
Okay. And did you say, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, go ahead.
Was the statement truthful that you gave that day?
No.
Had you heard Marvin say anything about any connected to this crime?
No, I didn't even talk to cuz that day. No.
Okay. Why did you lie that day?
Scared, ready to go on. Was tired. I was tired of getting questioned. The bullpen shit really got me. That's what really got me. The picking in the holding tank, bringing me through the grown-up jail. That's what really got me. You feel? That's what made me just say, all right, I'm gonna just say whatever they want so I can go the fuck home.
Had you heard facts about this case from other people prior to this May 28th statement?
No.
Had you heard that Marvin had been arrested before this May 28th statement?
Correct, yeah. I knew he got arrested, yeah.
Okay. And in those prior conversations you had with law enforcement before this May 28th statement, you said you had several conversations with them, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you ever say that Marvin had shot somebody?
No.
Did you ever say that Mr. Hayes said he was going to hit a lick?
No.
Did you ever say that Mr. Hayes had a gun?
No.
Did you ever say that Mr. Hayes was involved in this crime in any way, shape, or form?
No. Not at all. Not until that day.
And was it the pressure that you were feeling that day that made you implicate Mr. Haynes?
It was all of it together leading up to that. It was just the pressure they put on me. I ain't know no better than that.
And how old were you at this time?
14.
Counsel, I know he was 14.
Oh, sorry.
We don't have to keep going there. That's...
When you say you were feeling threatened, were you threatened with any kind of criminal prosecution?
Yes, I was threatened with it. Whatever, however much he get, I get half of it.
Okay. And do you remember any number of years that they said during that time?
They was throwing him out there 30. If he get 30, you get this, all this shit type shit. If he get life, you get this type. That's how they was throwing. It wasn't no little numbers. It was all big numbers.
So I think you said half the time, and you said 30. They were saying he could get 30 years. So did that mean you thought you could get 15 years in prison at the time?
Something like that, yeah.
What is the truth regarding your knowledge around this case with Mr. Haynes? Do you have any knowledge of his interaction with anyone at the flower shop that day?
No.
Do you regret lying to the police on May 28, 2004?
Yes.
How has the lie that you told that day, how has it affected you since?
In which way?
Emotionally?
It really, it messed me up for real, like for years, like, you know what I mean? Dealing with the fact that a lot that I told helped him out. Marvin been gone for a long time since we was kids. Of course, that's gonna put a toll on the whole family. That shit separated people into some shit like.
Has it contributed to your actions in your life after that day?
It could have played a part. Could have played a part in me trying to prove a point afterward. Yeah, I say so. Yeah.
And prove a point? Do you mean to people outside of?
To the world, yeah.
Okay. I'm now going to start talking about your grand jury testimony. Do you remember testifying at the grand jury?
Yeah.
And you gave testimony related to this case?
Right.
Do you recall at the beginning of the grand jury testimony, you said that anything that you said during your May 28th statement you were told to say by law enforcement?
Correct.
I'm sorry, was that testimony before the grand jury or before he went into the grand jury?
I can re-ask. When you were at the grand jury, did you say that your May 28th statement was based on things that law enforcement told you to say?
Correct. I've been saying that from that day to this day. I've been saying the same shit for years.
Do you remember at the grand jury, do you remember giving inconsistent testimony at all?
Yeah. Like stop saying like that ain't what I said, like trying to tell the truth. Yeah, I try to do that.
When you were at the grand jury, when you said that the May 28th statement wasn't true, why did you feel the need to say it at the grand jury?
Because I felt like it was more people around that would probably maybe would have listened, would have understood, seen what I was really trying to say, the truth. But at that time I was blind to the fact that how the system was set up.
Okay. So when you first started your testimony at the grand jury, you said that that statement wasn't true. But then later, at the end of the grand jury testimony, you ultimately did say that the May 28th statement was true. Is that correct?
Correct.
When faced with that new chance to tell the truth, were you still worried about the 15 years of jail time that had been threatened previously?
I was, but I wasn't, though.
And what made you feel more comfortable with more people in the room?
It's more ears, it's more eyes, it's more, it was adults around. It was judges and shit around, so I thought like I said, I was blind to the fact, the way the system was set up at that moment.
And so at the end of your grand jury testimony, at any time during the grand jury testimony, if you said your May 28th statement was true, was that a false statement?
Yes.
What is the truth regarding your knowledge around this case? Do you know if Mr. Haynes was at all involved in this matter?
No, I do not know.
Okay, now I'm going to move on to the actual trial testimony.
Right.
Do you remember being a witness at the trial in this matter?
Yeah.
Do you remember giving conflicting statements at that trial?
Yes.
I'm going to try to go through this chronologically to be really clear. When you testified at trial, did you at any point testify that your May 28th statement was not true?
Correct.
In fact, you spent much of that morning saying that your May 28th statement was not true. Is that correct?
Correct.
In this new proceeding, in a trial, why did you then feel, again, that it was a chance to tell the truth?
Like, the world was there. Like I said, it was more ear adults. People who I thought could do something. But it was out of our control from the beginning. We just didn't even see it.
And despite at that trial that day trying to say the statement was false for May 28th, did you ultimately change your mind?
Repeat that.
Despite your initial recantation, taking back what you had said on May 28th, you testified later that that statement was true at trial. Is that correct?
Correct. You talking about after they took me off the stand, took me in the side room and all that, right?
Well, why don't you tell me about them taking you off the stand?
I got to saying what I've been saying, that it was made up, that he didn't do it, that I didn't say he didn't do it. That's when they took me off the stand, took me to the side room, and here we go with the threats again, you feel me? And of course, yeah, I took heed to it. I thought I could get that time, but then I thought with my family in the courtroom plus the judge, because I thought I had a chance of somebody hearing what was going on. But like I just said to you before, it was already mapped out from the beginning. We just didn't. It was already planned. They had it already. They wanted to do what the fuck they wanted to do. They did what they wanted to do.
In this moment, I kind of heard your emotion there. Can you tell me about the emotion that you were feeling that day? Do you remember what you felt like that day?
Yeah, I felt terrible. I felt fucked up. They were making me lie on my cousin. They was making me put my cousin away. They had family members sitting on different sides of the courtroom and shit. Hell yeah, that bothered me. This is my family. We a tight-knit family, you feel me? That shit put a wedge in. And like I've been saying since that day, since the beginning, that it was all a lie. It was all made up. I don't see how many times I got to keep repeating that same shit. It was a lie.
Did you say it was a lie prior to that May 28th statement to the police?
Yes.
Did you say it was a lie at the grand jury testimony?
Yes.
Did you say it was a lie at this trial testimony?
Yes.
Do you remember crying at that trial?
Yeah.
This was later in life, 15 months. Do you remember how old you were that day?
No.
Were you still a teenager?
Yes.
Were you 16 if it was 15 months after that?
Yes. That could be correct, yeah.
You described going out into the hallway and having a conversation. Who did you have a conversation with? Do you remember? Was it let me re-ask. When you went into the hallway, you had a conversation with the person who was asking you questions, the prosecutor. Is that your recollection?
Right, we ain't going to the hallway, though. You talking about when they took me off the stand?
Yes.
That was in, like, the side room like that. It wasn't the hallway.
Okay. So they took you off the stand and you had a private conversation with the prosecutor.
Correct.
And you were indicating in like the jury room.
It was a room off to the side. I don't know if it was no jury room. You said that.
Okay. Okay, well, you were pointing to a jury room, but it was a room attached to the courtroom?
Correct.
Okay. And who was in that room with you, if you remember? Not necessarily their names, but their
Yeah, I
positions.
don't know no names, but if I'm not mistaken, I know it was 2 dudes and a woman. And the guy was talking.
And the guy that was talking to you, was that the same person that was asking you questions when you were a witness?
Correct.
The prosecutor?
Correct.
Okay. Do you remember what you were physically doing? Do you remember laying on the ground and kicking your legs? Do you remember that?
Hell no, I did that. Yeah.
You remember still crying at the time?
Yeah, I was hurt. Yeah, I was crying. That messed me up mentally for years on down the line because I knew I lied.
And so they took you to a separate room and you had several conversations with them, more than once. Or they took you off the stand and you talked to the prosecutor several times. Is that right?
Correct.
And did the prosecutor at that time say, if you said that your earlier statements, that anything you knew about this crime that you had said in the May 28th statement was not true, they say if you no longer said that, then you wouldn't be charged with a new crime?
I was gonna get charged that day. I was gonna be taken into custody. That's what was told to me.
You were told if you did not say something consistent with your May 28th statement, you were going to be taken into custody for a new crime.
Keep on around, understand that. Yeah, I was gonna be charged and took it in that day.
In fact, you came back into the court and you all agreed on the record that you would go back and say the May 28th statement was true, in turn for them not charging you with your new crime. Is that correct?
Objection leading.
Oh, wow.
Correct.
Is that why you ultimately said what you said?
Of course.
You believe that if you didn't say that May 28th statement was true that day, that you were going to be taken to jail?
Yes.
Did you have a lawyer present during that conversation that was helping you?
If she was, she wasn't helping me.
Did you have a lawyer though, sir?
It didn't feel like it.
Okay.
Was
But I understand that, but was one of the 3 people, you said there were 2 dudes and a woman, was one of them a public defender who was representing you?
Yes.
Okay, was that a dude or a woman?
I don't remember at the time. I think it was the woman. No, it was one of the dudes.
Okay.
It wasn't the dude running his mouth though.
I'm sorry?
It wasn't the prosecutor.
Okay. And your attorney was with you though during that interaction?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And let me explain why. That felt like a threat to you, the thought of going to jail that day. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it didn't matter who was saying it, whether it was a prosecutor or the attorney helping you. It felt like if you didn't say the May 28th statement was true, you were going to go to jail.
Correct.
Do you know what you did that day when you said that the May 28th statement was true at trial was wrong?
Yeah, I told the truth.
Is that why you're here today, to tell the truth?
Of course.
Looking back now, do you wish that you would have just been able to tell the truth during those original police statements and been able to stop there?
Correct. I just never even went down there.
Do you wish that you could have just stayed with the truth that you told at the beginning of the grand jury?
Counsel, I'm going to ask you not to lead every question and kind of argue your case through the questioning. Let's just get the facts, please.
I'm just going to end with a few questions in summary. Was the truth regarding your knowledge about Mr. Haynes in this case?
Repeat that.
Do you have any knowledge of Mr. Haynes being involved in this shooting?
No.
Did you hear him say he was going to hit a lick ever?
No.
Did you hear him say he shot a white man?
No.
Is this consistent with what you said throughout the interviews and your testimony?
Is it consistent with what?
Would you say it at every phase of the trial?
You don't need to ask that. I think the question's been asked several times. Is there another question you'd like to ask?
Yes. There was testimony throughout this case around people being at a house prior to the shooting at the flower shop. Do you recall that?
Right. Correct.
Do you recall the name of that person or that house?
Yeah, Muffy Crib.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Muffy House. I said crib at first, though.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe there was a last name there, and I've
Nah.
never heard the last name. Okay.
Did you see Mr. Haynes at Muffy's house that morning?
No, not if I can remember, no. I don't think, bro, he was there not that morning. I know it was only a few of us there that morning.
So if you've ever said in the past that he was there, that was not a true statement. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Any questions from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Harper.
What's happening?
Early in your testimony, I believe you referenced when the police saw you on the street that your mom did not give them permission to speak with you then. Did I understand you correctly?
Yeah, correct. She didn't at that moment, right?
Did your mom later give permission to the police to speak with you?
No, they came back talking about they came back on some other. They ain't even come back with that. They came back trying to with something else, with some weed they found on me. They tried to come back with that and brought me downtown.
Okay, so
And that's when the question came about something about Marvin. When they came to get me from the house, it wasn't for that. When they came to get me for that, my mom told us they couldn't talk to me. So they came back and brought me downtown on some felonious. Matter of fact, it wasn't even weed, it was stolen cars. It was the gold car they claimed they had in the picture, which they couldn't have had it because I still had the car.
did you ever say that during your grand jury testimony?
I tried to say this plenty of times, over and over.
In your testimony at the original trial, you said that you had committed perjury, lying under oath, when you had previously testified at the grand jury, correct?
I said that.
I'm asking you.
I don't remember saying no shit like that. No.
Are you asking if you used the word perjury?
Yeah, like I ain't
I
even
just-
know the fucking word.
just- Okay, just folks, with all due respect, it's not funny. So please stop laughing. If you're going to be laughing, I'm going to ask you to leave. It doesn't help anything. This isn't a community gathering spot to have kind of a loose conversation or things like that. These are important issues with important questions. I appreciate you recognizing that. I just want to make sure that the question is clear to you. And is the question asked, did he say I committed perjury using that language, or are you saying did he change his testimony?
In response to the question, did you lie under oath, and it was described as that's what perjury was at your original trial, with respect to what you had previously said during the grand jury, because the grand jury came before the trial. When you were at the trial and the jury was there, did you say in front of the jury that you had committed perjury, you had lied under oath when you had previously testified at the grand jury?
The only time I committed perjury was when I said that he did, when he told me he did something he did not do. Period. That's the only time I committed perjury. That's the only time I ever said something and changed. That's the only thing that was changed. From the truth to from what they made up into the truth and what I'm standing on and what I've been standing on. Even when they threatened me, even when I changed it, I still try to stand on the same thing. I don't get where we going at with this. The truth is the truth. I said it, yeah, it came out my mouth, but it was never nothing that I was told by Marvin. It was something I was told by a detective to say.
In your testimony in the original trial in this case, when you were under oath, you said that you did not remember who was with you at Muffy's house on the morning of May 16th, 2004, correct?
Correct.
And then later, during that same session of testimony in the original trial in this case, while you were still under oath, you contradicted yourself and said that you did remember who was with you at Muffy's house, and you said that Marvin Haynes was with you that morning, correct?
Correct, if that's what it say, yeah.
And then at your testimony at the original trial, again while you were under oath, you said that you did not remember having a phone conversation with Marvin Haynes later in the day on May 16th, 2004, after the murder at the flower shop, correct?
Correct.
And then later, during that same session of testimony, while you were still under oath, you again contradicted yourself and said that you did speak with Marvin on the phone after the murder at the flower shop, and Marvin told you that he, Marvin, had killed the man who was there, correct?
Correct. What we going with this the same shit I just told you.
Okay, sir, with all due respect, just answer the question.
All right,
This is not a back and forth. I'll turn it back over to the state.
In your testimony at trial, while you were under oath, you said that everything that you had told the police investigators on May 28th, 2004 was made up and was a lie, correct?
Correct.
And then later, during that same session of testimony, while you were still under oath, you contradicted yourself and testified that what you had previously told the police investigators on May 28th, 2004 was in fact the truth, correct?
Correct. After they took me off the stand and all that, yeah.
And when you were taken off the stand and went into that side room, I believe you testified earlier today that you had, it was ultimately 3 other people in that room with you, correct?
Correct.
2 dudes and a woman.
Correct.
And the woman was Lisa McNaughton, who was the attorney who had been appointed, or conflict counsel, as it's often referred to, but it was the attorney who had been appointed to advise you on your Fifth Amendment rights, correct?
Correct.
And then the 2 dudes were one of those
Why
men.
are you talking the way you talk? Why are you talking like I'm slow? You ain't got to talk that way.
Sir, he's just being clear, and I can tell you my court reporter appreciates clarity and kind of a pace. It's
Mr. Harper, I'm not doing it for your benefit. I'm doing it for the woman next to you. That is correct. I apologize if it came across as insulting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll try to. I need to speak slow so it's captured on the record, but it's not at all directed towards you. I talk this way to every witness. When the 2 men that you recall being in that side room with you, is it your recollection that one of those men was the prosecutor who worked for the Hennepin County Attorney's Office at the time, a man by the name of Mike Fernstall?
I wouldn't know his name, but yeah.
And was the other man that was in that side room with you that you may have recognized then when you were in the courtroom during the trial, a man by the name of Cassius Benson, who was representing Marvin Haynes at the time?
It could have been him. It could have been.
Because if the trial transcripts in this case reflected that there was only one prosecutor assigned to the case, as opposed to myself and my co-counsel here, we're both on the same, representing the same office right now. But if there was only one prosecutor, then the other man likely in that room was going to be the attorney for the defendant in that trial, Mr. Haynes.
Do you know who the other person was?
No.
Was it an officer? Was it someone in civilian clothes? Do you remember anything about that?
If I'm not mistaken, he was in the suit.
He was in a suit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. After that side meeting, or meeting outside the courtroom during your original trial testimony, you came back into the courtroom and continued testifying with questions from the prosecutor, correct?
Correct. Crying and all that too, right?
I'm sorry?
I was crying and all that too, right? Because I was forced to do something. So I ain't just get back on the stand happy and did something that I was supposed to do. No, I did something wrong.
Mr. Harper, I never said you were happy during it. But what I was trying to get at was after the prosecutor finished asking questions to you during the trial testimony in Mr. Haynes' original trial, then the defense attorney, Mr. Haynes' counsel, had an opportunity to ask you questions, correct?
Right.
And during your testimony, while you were still under oath, while answering questions posed by Mr. Benson, Mr. Haynes' attorney at the time, you again recanted and changed your story from what you had just said after you had come back out from the side room talking with the attorneys, correct?
Correct. I kept changing it up because they kept. The only time I changed it up is when they took me out to the side and brought up this miscellaneous food that I didn't know they couldn't do at that time. If I would have knew, we wouldn't even be here at this moment right now.
And at that original trial, you had testified that your memory was better within the 2-week period of time after May 16th, 2004, than it was at the time you were testifying in the trial, which was in August of 2005, correct?
Right.
And you specifically testified that your memory was better when you were under oath. You said your memory was better back on May 28th of 2004 than it was at the time of the trial in August of 2005, correct?
You saying that was my word? That was my exact word?
I believe you were responding to a question. I'm asking if you remember saying that your memory, or agreeing that your memory was better closer to when the event happened as opposed to over a year
I don't
later.
remember that. No.
And you understand, Mr. Harper, that after hearing all of the testimony that you gave, as well as the testimony from other witnesses, the jury found Mr. Haynes to be guilty, correct?
That's, with all due respect, I don't know if that's relevant to our
Is
inquiry.
you trying to piss me off?
No, sir, excuse me. He's not. He's asking very detailed questions in a very respectful manner.
It's the
There's-
faces he making and
No.
all that shit. Like,
No, there are no faces. Don't interpret things that aren't there, please. Mr. Petrus, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you for any additional questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Harper, since your trial testimony in Mr. Haynes' original case, have you been convicted of several crimes?
yeah.
One of those was the aiding and abetting murder conviction that you were discussing with Mr. Hampton before.
Yeah, that I'm doing time for right now. Yeah.
And you also been convicted of first-degree aggravated robbery. I believe that was out of Ramsey County
Yeah.
in about 2017. Sound right?
Nah, it was 2015.
Thank you. And were you also convicted of giving a false name to law enforcement?
Yeah, I might have gave a false name here and there before, man. I done did a lot of things. I ain't no angel. I'm not sitting up here saying I'm no angel. But I know what I did, and I know I lied. I know I lied and said my cousin told me he did something he did not do.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. I've no further questions for you right
That
now.
you don't, I know.
Well, I've got some questions for you, and I might generate additional questions. You had testified on direct examination that I just said what I was told to say in the May 28th interview. Who told you what to say?
The detective,
Do you remember which detective?
it was the younger guy, the short, well, not younger, the short one, because it was the tall one and the short one, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And what did they tell you to say? Or what did that person tell you?
Tell, he just coached me into it. It was like questioning on question, like, oh, did Marvin call you? Yeah, he called me all the time. That's my cousin. Oh, what he was talking about? Nothing. Oh, did he tell you he shot somebody? No. And then he like, yes, he did. And I'm like, no, he didn't. And that's when the ball got to rolling with it. Oh, he called you. He told you he shot somebody on the corner. And then I went with the shit, and I might have threw some extra shit in and said he shot somebody in the head or something, just so I can get on, so I can go home.
Okay, well, details can be important.
Yeah.
Do you have a clear recollection of that interview on May 28th? The one that was recorded?
Not to the T, but I can remember the main point where it was. I know they got me, brought me down there, questioned me the first time. He said, Marvin called you, yeah, what'd he say? All right. Then he stopped the recording, like, that ain't what I told you to say. And I'm like, what you talking about? That's when they took me, brought me up here, like I know because as an adult I know now. When we go to court at damn near the same room I'm in now, they threw me in there for a while, and they came back, brought me out, and that's when we came down. I said what he said, it just went with it.
Okay.
And then what was said was, Marvin called me, told me he was scared. He hit a lick, killed the man on the corner, shot him in the head or some shit like that. I think that's what I said.
Okay. When you say that they brought you here, do you mean to the Hennepin County Government Center, the public safety
up the
facility?
elevator, yeah.
In this building?
Yes, up the elevator and put in the holding cell.
Okay. Where you are now on the 11th floor?
Right.
Okay. And that was as part during the interview that they had of you?
This was in between all this. The whole interview was basically meant to scare me. That's what the whole thing was. So they walked me through first they walked me through City Hall, down there where the police be at on the other side. That's where they questioned me at.
At City Hall?
Down there in the detective room.
Okay.
In the detective's office. So they questioned me down there. It didn't go the way they wanted to. That's when they put the icing on the cake, brought me over here, came back, and I said what I said.
Okay. Do you recall how many times you met with law enforcement before your statement on May 28th?
At least 3.
Okay. Where did those meetings take place?
The first 2 was outside of my house.
Okay.
My mama wouldn't let them talk to me. And then that's when they came back with the stolen car. Brought me down for the stolen car. That's why they brought me to the city hall, because that's where they was going down. I guess they was supposed to. They had pictures they wanted to show me of the car and all that shit. They tried to say the car that he was in, which it wasn't the car that he was in because I still had that car. The car they tried to say they had behind the flower shop on camera, I still had it parked in my garage because it was a stolen car and it was clean and it was nice and I was still driving it.
Okay. So they approach you to talk to you outside your house twice, you remember?
Right.
Did you talk with them at that time?
No.
Okay. The third time they come and they arrest you, say, for a stolen car, they brought you downtown.
Right.
And was that on May 28th or was that some other time?
That's the May 28th was more than just that recording was the last part was the end when I said, all right, I'll give up. It was plenty of time before that where they was recording where they stopped it.
Okay, that's what I want to hear from you. I don't want to necessarily have it filter through questions and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So they come and they get you on May 28th.
Yeah.
Do you remember what time of day?
No.
Morning, afternoon, evening?
I'll say it could have been evening.
Okay. And did they talk to you about the flower shop killing before you got downtown?
First, they we just want to talk about the stolen cars and all that. All right. Yeah, we was taking cars. We was stealing a lot of cars. That's not murder. So I went with it. Oh, yeah. And when we got down there, that's when they changed the paper again.
Okay, and how many people were you meeting with during this time?
Just them same 2.
Okay, the 2 detectives?
Yeah.
Okay. When they turned to talking about the flower shop killing, did you know what they were talking about? Like just from hearing in the news?
Just hearing it. Yeah, I knew from when they first tried to talk to me about it. I knew from that, yeah.
Okay. And you said that you knew that your cousin, Mr. Haynes, had been arrested for that?
Right.
Okay. Again, I'd rather hear from you than have you just answer my questions, but when you were with the detectives, do you recall how long you were with them on May 28th?
All day down there. I'm trying to say it when I was down there. I sat in that bullpen for so long. I don't know how long I was sitting in that cell back there.
Okay. Was any of that time recorded in any way to your knowledge when you were in the bullpen?
It should be. I got cameras everywhere.
Okay, but as far as the detectives on scene, like anything like that?
No. Why would they do that? No.
Just asking to get information, sir.
No.
But you said that they stopped the recording at different times?
Yeah, they even did that in the grand jury, stopped me from and made me say what I said over.
I don't understand. What do you mean?
They stopped me in a complete sentence in the grand jury when I was trying to say what I said was a lie, and told me to say what I had previously said on the 28th.
Okay. And was that just like cross-examination and trying to
No,
challenge your testimony?
It was no, don't say that. Say what you said. That's how it was. That's how it's been this whole time.
Okay.
Say what you said or go to jail.
And,
There ain't no change it up and tell the truth. Say what you said or go to jail.
okay. Was that statement before the grand jury, or that was like during a break when you were before the grand jury? Do you remember?
What statement you talking about?
About just say what you said, otherwise you're going to go to jail.
The grand jury before the trial and on the 28th.
Okay. Were you represented by an attorney at all when you appeared before the grand jury?
Not that I could remember.
Okay.
If it was a public pretender, I never looked at it as no attorney, so I wouldn't remember.
Did the detective tell you, I want you to say 1, 2, 3, or were they asking you questions that you inferred, oh, this is what they want me to say? Like, what? How do you remember it?
It started off like you just said, the 1, 2, 3. I want you to say he called you, he told you this, and then I just went on with it to just make him happy so I could get the fuck home. So all the where the man got shot at and all that was probably something I just said myself, but everything else was just exactly what they said to say. Say he called you, he told you he hit a lick. Well, I don't even say lick. And yeah, that's how that went.
Okay. I'm going to see if Mr. Haynes' attorneys have any more questions based on the state's questionings or my questions, and then we'll see if the state has any follow-up. Mr. Hampton?
Thank you, Your Honor. That May 28th statement, some of the things you just said, police told you facts that for that statement, and others you said you made up. Is that correct?
Correct.
Earlier, when you were speaking, you said that during that statement you also said that he was shot in the head. Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know where the victim was actually shot?
No.
When you were talking to the other attorneys opposing counsel, you were asked a lot of questions. Do you remember those questions?
You mean here today?
Today, I'm sorry, here today.
I assume you were.
Questions from different.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember some of them. Yeah.
One of them was your memory 15 months after the actual crime was committed.
Right.
Would you remember if Mr. Haynes had told you and admitted to a crime 15 months after the crime was committed?
Yes.
That's a memory you would not have forgotten,
right.
is that
That's
correct?
You're not going to forget, right?
Okay.
But it's easy to forget what type of shirt I had on 15 months ago that day. That's something that, but you ain't going to forget nobody telling you they didn't kill something. That's not something you're going to forget. And that's not something that you just going to, that shit. I ruined my cousin's life behind a lie because I was scared. And when I didn't even know at the time that they couldn't did nothing to me at all. All I had to do was stick to saying what I said was the truth. And they couldn't have did nothing to me at all. But I was afraid. I ain't know the law, I ain't know shit. We ain't come from nothing. I ain't got no paid lawyer, nothing telling me what's going on. I got a public pretender telling me the same thing they tell me. Just say what they said, or you finna go to jail. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's how that went, man. Like I said earlier, man, it was already...
Objection non-responsive.
Okay. Sustain. We'll have another question posed, please.
You've said that you felt threatened or you felt pressure.
Right.
And this was based on your fear of going to jail, correct?
Correct.
And this fear, it didn't matter if it was a prosecutor or a public defender telling you that. Is that correct?
Correct.
That was fear that was instilled in you.
Correct. I'm a little guy. I'm the same size I was at 14. I'm 34. I'm a little motherfucker. Yeah, I was scared. You feel me?
And I'm going to wrap up here. I just want to be clear for the record. I just want to make sure that everything's clear. if you gave inconsistent statements to the police or at grand jury or at trial, every single time at those junctures, when you talk to the police, when you talk to grand jury, when you talk to the trial, at every single time, you initially tried to say that your cousin was not involved in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all.
Anything else from the state?
Nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Harper.
It's funny,